Okay, so Star Wars Contemporary Motivators. What on earth is this? Well, this is actually a comic adaptation of A New Hope. And I'll open this up briefly just to give you a sense of what I mean. So, a 1978 comic adaptation published by Pendulum Press, Contemporary Motivators was part of a larger publishing program designed for use in schools to engage children in further learning and reading comprehension. And it would come with a larger packet of things like worksheets and other sort of educational tools to sort of help guide the process of going through this and other books that were part of the program. Obviously, Star Wars being as successful as it was in 1978 when this was published and when the program was running, this was obviously a chief candidate for adaptation and for use in schools. Now, it's an obscure piece of EU to some degree. It's not something that a lot of people talk about, even though there's actually a surprising amount of information out there about it, other videos, other websites devoted to this. So there's more you can do online to learn about this. In fact, see most of the pages and strips and stuff. Interestingly, some of the strips and some of the illustrations were actually turned into film strips that were also shown in schools and other venues. I'm actually fortunate enough to have some of the original film strips myself. So let's just take a quick look through it and I can explain a little bit more about what this is and what it's all about. Again, published in 1978. Here we have a biographical sketch of the creator himself, although it says about the author, not the author of this adaptation. The author of this adaptation is actually Linda Cadrain, and the illustrations are by Charles Nicholas. You can sort of see here are all of our cast and crew. Very, solid illustrations, even if this doesn't necessarily look like, Carrie Fisher as Leia or Mark Hamill as Luke, but you still somehow get the idea. It's a pretty straightforward adaptation of A New Hope. It begins right here with the opening scene, ends with the medal ceremony. That said, there are a lot of liberties taken with the dialogue, so there's quite a bit of back and forth here between the characters that you don't actually hear in the movies, but it's not as if they change the plot in any way. I'll just give you a sense of kind of what I mean here. This is a good example, I think, around page 18 or 19. Incidentally, this entire adaptation runs about 31 pages or so. Again, good illustrations throughout, a lot of good dialogue, but you can get a sense here, just as Alderaan's been exploded, Leia retorts, "And you call yourselves human?" And Tarkin says, "No matter, my dear. You'll soon see the rest of your friends die the same way. No one will be able to fight against the Death Star." You can see, just as Han, Leia, Chewie, and Obi-Wan have, taken those stormtroopers down who tried to board the Millennium Falcon when they were hiding. You can, hey, that was a good piece of work, Luke. What's the next plan? So you see a little bit of insight into, what they're doing here. That's, again, obviously not from the films, but again, this doesn't in any way sort of change our understanding. But that said, it is, technically speaking, a sort of a novel adaptation, right? So to that degree, it's a minor new contribution to the EU, and certainly 1978 would have constituted a significant portion of all available EU material beyond the films. Now at the bottom here, I'm focusing on the annotations, these footnotes. Almost every page are a large number of footnotes, which seems sort of strange. Probably this has to be, of all the things in the EU, this has to be the thing with the most number of footnotes. And it's partly because, again, of the context. This is about education. This is about getting this in schools. This is about explaining lots of things to kids about the world, right? Using these popular books and these adaptations. So for instance, you can sort of see some of the asterisks up here and what do they refer to. So we find out that Princess Leia is in cell block AA23, and you've got the two little asterisks there, and then you find out what's a cell block. Well, it's part of a gel. Each block contains a certain number of cells. And so some of these footnotes are honestly fairly pedantic, but again, depending on the reading level, right? It was a nice way for the authors to provide some additional context, right? To sort of guide someone through their learning journey here. But a fun little obscure piece of EU. It goes all the way back to the beginning. This is in surprisingly good shape on the inside, even if the outside's been beat to heck. Now, for many, many years, this was one of my holy grail items. In fact, Steve Sansweet, who's sort of the chief Star Wars archivist of all collectibles, has sort of referred to the broader package that this was a part of as one of the main holy grails for all Star Wars collectors. Obviously, from an EU perspective, if what you're interested in is solely sort of contributions to, the expanding storyline, if you're interested in the stories themselves beyond just the sort of the toys and trinkets and things that you can gather, all you really need is this, right? But it's worth noting that this is technically part of a larger set. I mean, it would include everything from um, like worksheets and things that again would help guide students through the reading comprehension process. They'd come in a number of different packages and boxes and things. I mean, there's a lot here. There's a lot of materials, right? And I've seen these packaged in a number of different ways. Both like the individual sort of learning kits, in addition to other boxes I've seen sort of just stacked with all the different editions of these that you would have in theory handed out to the 30 odd kids in the classroom, right? Those full packages though are just nearly impossible to find. But again, all you need is this. Unfortunately, while this is available in the secondary market, again, you can find these on eBay today. Unfortunately, they are cartoonishly priced, particularly given sort of what they contribute, right, to the EU. The good news is that, again, there's enough resources online to sort of get a broad sense of what these contribute and what some of the pages like, and what some of the dialogue is. But there's a lot out there still. I mean, I first really started learning about this thanks to Nathan Butler, who produced a video about this years ago. And interestingly, this has a connection to Nathan Butler, because when he decided to liquidate his Star Wars EU collection, I immediately reached out to see if he was willing to let this go, and he was. So this is actually his original copy. So it's got sort of not only a connection to the EU, but also a connection to sort of the EU fandom in that way. But there's still a lot of content out there I think one reason why I wanted to make this video, even though some of the content for elite collectors might be a bit redundant, is I want to raise more awareness about this. Why? Because I want people who might still have this to understand that this is a pretty rare find, and there's a lot of demand for it. Hopefully we flood the market, right? And hopefully we can bring some of those prices down, because it's absurdly priced, but it's a really fun, admittedly kind of eccentric, but neat, obscure little thing to add to anyone sort of completist collection. So anyway, Star Wars Contemporary Motivators. Now you know out there that in 1978 there was a comic adaptation with lots of very, very helpful, if pedantic, footnotes.